again welcoming Mr. Yahya. What made it all start? How did it all start with you?
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you and to share my story. My goal here is that you, at the end, get inspired, get motivated to start your own thing also. So yeah, I started like building and making products, tech products at a very young age. I actually started coding at the age of 13. And how it all started actually through video games. The first thing I did when I received my computer at 13, 12 years old is I played games. And we had this system on the computer where you have a limited set of coins that you could use every day to play the game. So I would play the game the whole day and end up without coins. And some of it, and it came at the same time when we had internet at our home. So I actually started Googling how can I play more and how can I understand the system or the software behind so I can try to reverse engineer it to play more games. And it's as simple as that, where I started actually searching on Google on how to learn how to code and how to learn how software works and how system works and how games works. And from there, I got introduced to the world of video games and to the world of technology. And I started making games and apps by myself. The first thing I learned was Java on a website called Zero Site de Zero, which is a zero introduction to programming website. And it's a big website today in France called Open Classroom. And between 13 and 16, so I had school. I was doing school, but I was also learning. When I get home, I search on YouTube and on Google, and I learn how to make games and how to make websites. And by the age of 15, I built a small portfolio with 15 websites and 3 games. Actually, my first startup was at the age of 15, and it was a website. It's still available now called Yahya Games. With online video games, and I was having traction as 500,000 users using the website every day, and I started putting ads and making some money. And the first check I made, like I was 15, it was like 500 USD. Even my father was really surprised the first time I took him to the ATM to cash out the money, and he was like, "What? How?" Um, so yeah, so you can think about it as I had school, I had this educational model that is very static, and I built on top of it a different educational model, a model that I was really excited and I was really enjoying it, and I was learning all of this really by myself, and I was really excited by with the internet, and it was really exciting world for me. And by the age of 16, um, my brother sent me this article on Harvard Business News about the startup looking for game developers from all over the planet that is based in Silicon Valley to hire as game developers. I applied. So I got interviewed. I was 15 years old. I did 12 interview with the CTO who went to MIT, that is head of engineering at this startup, and I got accepted. So I flew up. I'm from Sousse, which is a small city in Tunis. I flew up from Sousse straight to Silicon Valley for the first time, and I had zero expectation, but it was an amazing experience. And I spent 4 months learning and making games for iOS, and I designed and built and shipped 5 games on the App Store. And we were making 2D games. The cool thing about this is I thought I was I thought I knew how to code, and I thought I knew some basic concept, but I found myself with the smartest people in Silicon Valley who are my age, 20 years old, 18 years old, but they were dealing with much complex computer science terms like delegation and all. So I had to work really hard. I remember like sleeping for hours every day, trying to learn by myself and trying to catch up with this amazing people. So the whole environment pushed you to learn more and to work harder and to be better. And it was a crazy intense 4 months. And from there I kept going back every summer for summer internship to make games. The first summer I was making games. The second summer I was teaching students how to make games. and the third summer I was making apps and products. The cool thing is I was not only interning, I was also attending hackathons and events. I did actually more than 55 hackathons. I did all the American University's hackathon, MIT hacks, M hacks, Princeton hacks, Hack the Planet. Hackathons are a short event of 24 hours where we bring hackers and developers to make and produce and product, and it's actually creative problem solving in 24 hours time frame. Um, so I was actually very active in the ecosystem. I was attending hackathons, talks, events. So I was getting a lot of meeting this guy called Sam Altman, who is the president of Y Combinator and now the CEO of OpenAI, which is one of the largest nonprofit and for-profit actually organization that is building safe AI. And he was like, I showed him my game, and he was like, "This is an amazing game. You should apply for YC, and why not join the How to Start a Startup course by Y Combinator." So I started attending the course, and at the course we had people like Paul Graham and amazing entrepreneurs who build great startups, and I got really introduced to the world of startups and the world of making product that can scale and that can serve people and and build products that people actually want. So I was between two environments, two ecosystems, and I can see clearly the gap of skills and the gap of mindset between those two ecosystem. And I was coming back every time to Tunis, and I find kids who are like 14 years old, 20 years old, who wants to start product and who wants to build games and apps and tech products, and we didn't find the environment to do so. So in 2016, I actually graduated from high school. And I remember I got my high school degree at 19 June 2016. 21 June, I moved to Tunis, which is the capital of Tunisia, and I started working on GoMyCode. And the idea was very simple. I was like, forget about. Meanwhile, and all, let's start this project during the summer, and we'll see after. So we started the first cohort of students, where it was not even a startup. It was as simple as a boot camp where we bring 15 students during the summer academy program, and we teach them how to make games. But let's break conventional wisdom. Let's not have teachers. Let's not have classes. Let's throw the classes at the best a space. We had a pool, we had a big villa, the best place in Tunis, and we had game developers teaching students how to build games. We had expert coming every day to give talks and inspire students. So we built also tech where students can also learn on the platform. We built a product-based curriculum where students learn how to make games through cloning actual real games like Flappy Bird and Angry Birds by that time. So we launched the first cohort with 20 students, and actually for the first month, I did everything. I built the tech, I built the curriculum, I did marketing, I did most of the sales because we had people applying on the website. So I need to call them every time and explain the program. So I was calling like 50 people every day, trying to convince them to join the summer program that cost 300 USD. And it was a challenging ride, but it was an amazing experience for students that we had like 30 articles written on the experience, and we had 100% satisfaction rate, and we had 5 NPS, and it was everyone heard about the experience. So I was like, everyone in the States are doing gap years, right? So why I don't do a gap year this summer and this year and focus on building more GoMyCode, and let's see after. And through the time I spent like I ended up spending 3 years or 4 years of my life working and building this product and this company that turned from 15 students to we have over 2,000 active students, and we trained over 10,000 students today. We're actually operating in 8 countries between Tunisia and Algeria and Morocco and Nigeria, Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Egypt, and Bahrain. We are a team of 100 people and a network of 200 teachers. It's funny how we started from 15 students and 20 students, and after 50 students, 100 students, 200 students, and we kept growing, which is really important when launching a startup. The power of building a good product and scaling it is really hard. But if you build something that 5 people will love, the 5 people after will recommend to another 5 people, and there is a network effect when it comes to building really good product, and especially in educational models. And the 4 years journey has been really crazy because it was I think the first thing, it was a lot of learning for us. If you ask me how to define the 4 years of experience, I would say number one, it's a lot of learning for the team, for us, for GoMyCode as a company. Um, it's an amazing learning curve because we learned that in a product team, for example, you don't need just the web developer, you need also the data scientist, you need the UI UX developer, you need the digital marketing guy that will market the product. So that's why we scaled our offering to more than 30 learning programs, that we don't teach just code, we teach design also, we teach digital marketing, data science. And so GoMyCode today is an educational platform that trains over 77 on tech skills and on digital skills. And we provide a range of programs from data science to design to digital marketing. And we do this through a unique model that is based on a physical rollout. So we have a network of spaces. Today we have 15 spaces, actually 16 spaces. Our space in Bahrain, Manama, is in D1, in the heart of Manama. And people come to our spaces to meet teachers and to get access to good quality learning experience and curriculum and teacher. And we have this whole model that is based on an active learning model, that when you go to GoMyCode, you learn actually how to make and design and ship actual products. You meet a teacher. It's collaborative learning. It's product oriented. It's community based. You get with a global. You get in touch with a global community that is not based just in Manama, but you get to know students in Egypt, students in Morocco, in Tunisia, in Nigeria. So there is a very good synergy being part of the GoMyCode network. And yes, this is a brief about our story and what we've been building for the past 2 years, 4 years. Feel free to ask me a question, Hala, like if you. So yeah.
Well, it's very fascinating, Yahya. It's a fascinating story, a fascinating journey. At the age of starting at the age of 15 and traveling back and forth to build your network, to build your knowledge, to build your skills, and mashallah, you've been able to, start your business and expand 8 countries, as you said. Tell me, what was the most difficult part in starting your business?
Mm.
How did you what was your did you have a what plan did you have? Did you stick to the plan? Were there changes? What happened along the way, and
Yeah.
made you throughout your
Yeah.
journey?
Okay, so actually starting a company is a very unpredictable journey. You cannot. It's really impossible to predict a company growth trajectory. Uh, probably your one mainly focus as a company builder is to solve problems in the way. You'll be solving problems at the speed of light. Every day you wake up and you had a set of challenges and problem, and you always doing problem solving. It's extremely unpredictable and extremely hard to build a company. Actually, 85% of company dies, so only 15% of companies make it happen actually and succeed after. Probably one of the hardest challenges we have in Tunis and other countries in the region, actually in the Middle East and Africa, can really relate also, is one is hiring talents and keeping in the countries we live, the best talents always get out the country, live to Europe or the States to work. So hiring and keeping talents around is really hard, and probably one of the hardest things for a CEO is to hire the right people on the right profile, because you need to convince them to stay with you and to fight with you and to build the product with you with less benefits and less quality of living that they can easily access outside of the country, right? So one is hiring the right talent and keeping the right talent around. And it's not something necessarily related to you or to your product. It's also related to the economic situation of the country, to the local environment and everything. The second thing is probably is trying to build something really useful and that is really solving a big pain for people, because there are a lot of companies out there, but really few really understand how to solve the big pain and solve the problem in a really efficient and good way. So trying to understand and trying to iterate what are you really solving, and your product is really hard and really challenging in an environment that is really hard also. Building a business in Tunis, it's really hard journey because because one, we have a very limited legal administrative framework when it comes to building a company outside Tunis or scaling a company, or for example, dinars are not convertible, so you can have dinars in Tunis, but you cannot convert them to USD, so you can open a subsidiary in other countries. So we had to navigate all of this bureaucracy and all of this legal complexity. So we had to move the country to outside and get investors who can invest in USD, and we had to lobby for a framework called Startup Act in Tunis. So it's a lot of also legal and administrative bureaucracy that you need to navigate through. So that's the third point, is also navigating through this legal and administrative bureaucracy and trying to it's really hard trying to build. When we define a startup, we usually define it by its trajectory, its growth trajectory. I mean, a startup needs to grow really fast, but when the local laws and legal frameworks are really limiting that, you cannot really grow fast. So we literally your growth is really defined by the speed of the economy and the legal framework that is set. It's really challenging. The fourth thing is, as a founder, you need to really get good at sales, because you need to convince the people to join your team, but also you need to convince the clients to get your product. And that's also really hard, because people are really hard usually, and they need to see a certain value. So convincing people to actually buy your product can be really challenging, and it takes a lot of patience, takes a lot of iteration the 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 startup journey. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you for summing all of this information, in such a easy points, for everyone to understand. You mentioned hiring and keeping the right talent. You
Yeah.
mentioned building a useful product, navigating through legal and bureaucratic regulations, the limitations they
Yeah.
give you, and the marketing and sales, and how to raise your
Yeah.
sales and improve to your customer base.
Mm.
So if you were to look back at how you how you did it, what would you change? Is there anything you think you will be changing in the process, that if you had to go through this again?
um, that's a hard question, because it's it's really hard to change. So I didn't have the thought to process this if we had to change something. But it's at every step. I mean, so here's the thing. When it comes to building a product or building a startup, at first you can really tolerate a lot of errors and a lot of risk. Means the impact of the mistake at year one, it's not as important as year four, right? So it's okay to do a lot of mistakes and to take a lot of risk at early years, because its impact, it's not as important as after 4 years. Now we cannot tolerate a lot of mistakes, because we have a certain size, we have a brand to protect, we have a team, so it's really hard to make mistakes now. So that's also my point. It's fine, you cannot change everything at first, but if probably a few things I can change when it comes to hiring people, and giving more importance to culture, and giving more importance to the people you hired first. Actually, company culture is defined by the first 60 days, and by the first 5 people you hire. So you need to really be really skeptical about the first people you hire in the company. um, um, and so you need to spend a lot of time. So hire slow and fire fast. That's said by Sam Altman, Y Combinator. So probably that is giving more attention to details, to hiring people, to talking, also giving more in general, giving more attention to details, to everything. And that's also something you learn through time, is when starting a product, you need to be really detail oriented in everything when it comes to building product, building tech, selling the product, um, hiring the team. You need to have a high level of attention to details. And actually, this is really important. As a CEO, you need to understand at every layer how the company can make a tremendous impact. at first and think that the CEO is not concerned to understand how the product function and how the technicality function and how the marketing function. But in reality, you need to understand how everything works. And I'll give an example of Sam Altman. I've given an example of Elon Musk, who is like the CEO of SpaceX and Tesla. And actually, Elon Musk understands how the SpaceX rocket works at the layer, at every details, and understand how the Tesla cars works at every detail. And he's extremely involved with the product team, with the engineering team, and with the whole like product team. And that's a small thing, but we forget sometimes, especially when trying to scale the product. So that's a learning for me, is to give more attention and trying to understand everything and how the whole company works as we grow. The second thing, which is probably one of the best advice that someone can give to you, is to always dream high and always add another zero to your assumptions. So when you set a target of 10, add another zero to 100. So a mistake that I made, and we tend to make as entrepreneurs at first, is we underestimate the capacity of the product that we're building, or we underestimate the capacity of the market to absorb this product. So it's really important to set high expectations from your team, for yourself, for your investors. Always another zero, because if you add another zero, you will challenge more the team. You will attract better investor, and you will challenge yourself to do better and do everything, execute better. So that I'll tell you that, yeah.
Okay, so these are very important two points to mention. I'll sum them up again. Attention to details in every layer of the product, the company. Be aware of everything in your company, and dream high, aim big. Always think of scaling higher your product, even when you're pitching it for
Yep.
investors. When you're building your team. These are very good and helpful points for the students and inshallah wannabe entrepreneurs that are listening to us. So what would you say were the things or were the aspects that were actually working in your favor? Like what helped you? What were the things that you benefited from in your starting up your business process?
Yeah. I think even though we have really big legal and admin bureaucracy in Tunis, but one of the also the best thing that we have in Tunis, aside from the sky, blue sky, and the sun and all of that, and the beaches and all, and the good food also, we have a really high density of educated people at first. So we have a lot of engineers and graduates. One of the highest rates actually in Africa. We actually have 5,000 developers per 1 million habitant, which is really high. Only two countries in Africa have this rate. It's Ile de Maurice and Tunisia, where they have a rate of 5,000 developers per 1 million habitant, which is a very high rate. That it just makes it easier for us to hire developers to build tech, and to hire developers to teach students, and to scale up with developers, because we have developers in Tunis. The second thing is in Tunis we have one of the lowest cost of living. So the cost of starting business in Tunis is really low compared to all of the other countries around the region. And this, you can start a business in Tunis actually as simple as 500 USDs. So that's played also an important role because we get to build the product in Tunis. So we get to build the tag that we have in Tunis, and we got to build the first prototype and the first MVP and try it and learn from it in Tunisia, and after take it and after raise funds and take it to other countries. So I would say that played an important role. And actually Tunisia is really interesting place to start an MVP and start a business, because it's such a good environment to test and build. It's a really small niche economy and markets comparing to Egypt or Nigeria or Morocco, but it's a really important place to, especially with the Startup Act framework that we have, and that also played, because by the time played an important role in what we do, because by the time we started after 1 year, we had this amazing Startup Act framework that helped us raise from foreign investors and have a bank accounts outside the country and all of that. So it's one, it's the environment. Two, it's the Startup Act framework. It's one, the environment, the cost of living, cost of hiring, and the engineers density in the country. Two is the legal and like framework called Startup Act. And three, I would say I was extremely lucky to have good people around, good investors, good advisors, even in the team, good people who actually helped us build this product and scale it. I think one of the hardest thing you face as a founder is one, you need advice, and you need a lot of advice. And the hardest thing about this is what advice to pick and what advice to choose. So you need to navigate your journey by yourself, and you need to find always your own path, because you know, you have a lot of people giving advice, but you shouldn't take all of the advice. You need to find someone to earn the right to give you advice, right? So I think I was lucky enough, because you usually get really bad advices in general. So you need to be really skeptical about the people who gives you advice and receive advice, and be always, who are they and what have they done to earn the right to give you advice, right? So when it comes to that, I think I was really lucky to get advice by people who build companies like Uber, like Deliveroo, like Airbnb, that I knew them through my network, and I knew them in Tunis and all of that. So yeah. Mm,
So you definitely benefited from your travels,
yeah.
from that experience you gained at the beginning of your
Mm,
journey.
yeah.
Did you ever regret it, Yahya? Did you ever feel like I don't want? I wish I never started. This is a big headache. I wish I became the actor my
Always.
parents wanted me to
Every
be.
day.
Really? Until
So
now?
of course, it's really hard. It's one of probably the hardest thing that you can ever do, is to start a product and start a project. It's a lot of emotional burden. It's a lot of physical burden. It's a lot of things to manage. It's a lot of also sacrifice, because you need to spend like 15 hours, 18 hours per day working on this company that no one that do you have 80% probability that will fail, and failure is really a bad thing in society. It's seen as a bad thing in society. It's not the states. So you have also this emotional, physical, and like responsibility to make a product work and functional. And it's a lot of risk, because I didn't go to university, so this is really important for me to make it happen and make it grow and make it work. And you're challenged literally by everyone, by the investors, by the team, but so you have always to meet certain expectations and do better. So it's really a hard journey, huh? And a lot of folks there, that when you start a company, you'll see you need. But the good thing is, the more you grow, the more resistant you are, and the more you build a resilient mentality, and that's really important. That's why I advise a lot of the students here to read more actually about philosophy, and read more about philosopher like Camus, like Nietzsche, and all, who wrote about resilience and wrote about being strong and being resistant, because that's something for sure you need when it comes to building a company. So yeah, of course you get headaches. You sometimes you say, I don't want to do this anymore, I can go outside and work in the States and Silicon Valley and have better condition, right? But they always have this quote I'll keep reminding the team and us is, we will either find a way or make it happen, which is like Hannibal said that, which is really important for us, is to have a resilient mindset, and you sleep and you wake up with a different with a much resilient mindset, and we keep building. And I mean, we also believe in what you're doing, one of the hardest problems we face in the continent in the upcoming 50 years. By 2030, we will have more youth between 14 and 30 years old in one continent than ever before. And these people need good quality education, they need jobs, they need access to knowledge, and they need to grow as humans. And we with the current education model in general is breaking, and it's not adapting to this technology revolution. And that's what we're solving really. We're trying to build a much relevant educational model to empower all of these people in the content and help them have a better life, a quality of life in general. And it's something that keeps us also alive and keeps us pushing and trying to do better, and like I don't know.
Yes, very good points indeed. Yahya, where do you see yourself the next 5 years?
The next 5 years, we're going to have 50,000 students per year, and we're going to have operating with 150 space in the content. So that's the target that we set. Today we have 16 spaces. We want to grow from 16 spaces to 100 spaces. We want to grow from 10,000 students per year trained to 50,000 students per year trained. So those are the targets that we have from here to actually 3 years by 2024.
Okay, that's as far as your business, but I was asking about yourself. Are you having
Yeah.
other dreams? I wanted to ask about your business as well, but I would see what you have in mind for yourself. You know, if I
I
know
don't
you,
have.
you, you
I'll
think
be. Yeah.
as a business, right? You think as if you and
Yeah.
your business are the same. But
Yeah.
what dreams do you have? Do you think you're going to be opening other businesses? Are you going to become a serial
Yeah.
entrepreneur? You know, if you
The
could elaborate on that, please.
the formula for me, it will be this is in life. I think I'll be building products and solving problems in 5 years. I could be building chairs because chairs are breaking. I could be building tables because we're trying to solve something with tables. I can be building tech, blockchain, AI, any kind of product. Actually, I'm trying to solve a big pain in society, and that's what drives me every day. Like building and building and designing and shipping products that can help people do better and have a better quality of life. So yeah, in 5 years, it's either keep growing GoMyCode and scaling more the work we're doing, or building other products. So I see myself that like always be building stuff.
So you see yourself more attached to the journey, to the process, and more so than to the industry itself, like the tech industry. And as you
Yeah.
mentioned, even if the product is a different.
There's also something I want to work in, but I don't know what's the best timeline for it. Is I want to also invest in because I see it. A lot of entrepreneurs in the region are liking funding, and finding people who are actually invest in your product is really hard and really challenging. So that's something for sure I want to do at some point. Because I think the best investors are the people who've done startup and scaled startups. So it's also an ex CEO or an ex product guy, because most of the investors out there are like finance or like um, VC guys who never actually done startups. So that's something I want to do, also investing in startups and amazing entrepreneurs in the region now. Yeah.
So you see that there's a need for that, for all these entrepreneurs, these
Yeah.
fresh, what advice do you have for, again, for starting out, for the entrepreneurs starting
Mm.
out, for those who are contemplating this
Yeah.
idea there, what advice would you have for them in terms
Yeah.
of, process, in terms of the
Yeah.
product, using their
Yeah.
product?
I have
Okay,
a
go ahead.
I have an advice, and you should take your notes and write it down. When it comes to writing, when it comes to launching a startup, it's basically three things that you need to keep in mind. One is the vision, and you need to really think, and you really need to take time to think clearly and wisely about this vision. And the vision is defined. A vision is actually a mathematical equation, which is if the word today is X, with my vision the word is Y. So you need to find your X and Y, and if you don't find your X and Y, you don't have something to solve. Um, Today the word is, for example, Facebook. For Facebook today, the word is not connected with my platform. With Facebook, the word is connected. So we gotta think clearly about vision, and the vision is not something nice to hear, or a sounding term. It's actually something that is logical, and it's really focused on solving a big pain and problem. And you gotta really think about the vision, because the vision you will need it to convince investors to invest in your startup, to convince the team to join your team, and convince clients to buy your product. Super important to give attention to the vision. The second thing is you gotta have the right ambition. Ambition is super important. For example, you need to think about everyone, all backgrounds, all ages. For example, in our case, not everyone can pay for our programs. Not everyone has the necessary needs to, can afford the tuition fees that we provide today, right? So there is an X percentage of people that don't have the necessary resources to pay for our programs. What are we gonna do for those people? How are we gonna solve their pain? So having a right ambition is really important, and you need to have a positive ambition. And by ambition, I mean you gotta also have logic. You gotta have also a lot of thinking behind how can you help people and how can you make their life better, and that's the ambition. The third thing, which is the most important thing, is execution, and you need to have a capacity to execute and have intensity and have operational intensity and have a resilience to execute. You'll be working 16 hours per day. You will be facing challenges and problems every day, and you need to execute and learn, and that's really important. um, it at the end, if you know it at the end it funnels to your capacity of how hard can you handle this. You know, like 80% of this 85% of startups fails, right? But like 60% of them, number one reason why they fail is founders, uh, they just they just um, anymore. It's not they run out of the money. It's not the number one reason is founders are tired. They cannot do it anymore, and it's such a mental blockage and such a physical blockage because you just cannot do it anymore. You're tired, and so you have to execute and have a resilience. And there's a lot of things out there that you can learn from. Like there's the How to Start a Startup course by Y Combinator, which is an opening class by YC. It's super important that every one of you need to go watch, called How to Start a Startup by Sam Altman. And there are a lot of sources out there, a lot of blogs that you can read about startups and building companies and all of that. So I'd say that vision, right ambition, and capacity to execute, and execution and learning and resilience.
What technology would you suggest for IT students to learn that would help them in building their startup?
A very good question. Yeah, yeah. I mean, giving attention to what kind of to the technology choice of your next product is really important, and probably super important, and that you need to decide, right? There are like over 300 or 400 frameworks out there that you can use to build your tech, right? Probably one of the high growing now technologies, I think you have two schools. You have technologies around JavaScript libraries and technologies around Python. So I would say for web platforms, JavaScript in the front end, like React is really good. React.js, it's backed by Facebook, and that's probably gonna be there for quite an important of time. And having a backend with Node.js, Express, MongoDB, uh, that's also really important. So I suggest like full stack JavaScript, React on the front end, and Node.js, MongoDB on the backend side. But also there are a lot of frameworks that you can use for cache, for a lot of other features. It also really depends on what are you building. Is it a SaaS? Is it a consumer base? Is it graph based? It's also depending on what are you building. So if you can elaborate more on that, what are you building? But outside that, full stack JavaScript for web-based platform, for user-based platform, and anything Python, Django, Python for data science, for platform that you have a lot of numbers and you have a lot of calculation in the backend. So Python is really good also. For fintechs, usually they use Python. For e-commerce or like consumer products on a daily basis by users, really simple. They use front-end libraries like React and backend like Node.js and all. So yeah. And by the way, you can learn all of that at GoMyCode also. So we have tracks in Introduction to Web Development in React, in Node.js, and we have also Python programs. And
I had a question. You have been, as you mentioned, you have been Google schooled, let's say. You
yeah,
learned to
true.
code on Google. You spend a lot of hours searching and understanding and you know building your skills, your knowledge in Google. Well, and you know by searching it, by not really going to you know getting like you mentioned, getting a degree and so on. So, what was that effect on yourself in terms of did it make it easier? Did it make it harder? Did you do the right thing? Would you have done it differently? Can you elaborate on that sense? And definitely, I'm trying to make everyone understand that you don't really need to worry a lot about your background of study, but you can actually learn without necessarily, do business and something you haven't really studied in the university.
So there is the question of how do we acquire skills today in today's economy, and it's probably one of the questions that every one of you should pose, should ask yourselves. Is learning a 4 year thing? Is learning only happens at school? uh, Learning really changes through time. We actually define learning by the exploration of potential that we never knew we had before, and that's how we learn, because as humans we have potentials, and we have skills, and we have capabilities that are not explored, and we learn to explore those capabilities, right? And so learning also really changes through time. You know how schools and universities started, it actually goes back to the industrial revolution that started 100 years over actually 100 years ago, when we had industries and we had factories, and we tried to think about ways to hire people for factories, and that's how we came with the universities and with schools. And schools are actually industrial, kind of industrial learning. You have classes for 30 students, you have one teacher, and knowledge get passed from a teacher to students, and knowledge is really passive. And the school usually the only place when you go and acquire knowledge. The good thing and the exciting thing now happening is, with the technology revolution, knowledge is distributed. Imagine a world without YouTube, without Google, without all of these forums and all of this website. And so knowledge, access to knowledge is not just limited to university. Access to knowledge is everywhere, and you literally can learn anything now over YouTube. So no, learning is actually active now. It's not as used to be passive from teacher to students. So you have a teacher, but also you have Google, you have the internet, you have a lot of other resources where you can go and learn skills. So this is really an important and fundamental changes when it comes to learning. And when it comes to so you can literally just have internet and learn anything today. Something, you just go and Google it. Super important, super simple. And if you have an interest in something, you can Google it and start trying to figure out what do you want, and all of that. So that's I mean that's something really important to think of. um, the second thing is you know youth today, like, for example, developers need to redevelop skills every 12 months, right? For a developer, the average is to learn a new skill every 12 months. So as a developer, you need to be actively learning. And this is not just when it comes to developers, this is also for designers, this is also for data scientists, this is also for digital marketing people. Anything technical, you need to redevelop skills. So learning, actually, it's a long life learning, it's a long life thing. You actually keep learning at every step of your career. This is if you want to be relevant in today's economy. You actively need to be learning all the time if you want to grow and stay relevant at the company. And before, our parents stayed at the company 30 years, 20 years, 50 years, and working for the same company, right? The world today is changing, where the average turnover rate is like 2 years. You spend 2 years at the company, you go to another company. So there is a big shift also when it comes to the workplace and the workforce, and how people work at companies. People are always constantly changing companies and constantly changing jobs. And from all of this, you get to understand that there are much more that are in today's economy, there are like much more relevant skills than the skill that we needed 30 years ago. One is problem solving. Two is your capacity to learn other skills by yourself. If you don't have the skills to learn other skills by yourself, that's really something really important. Means if I give you internet and I give you time and I give you access to the web, you can literally learn anything by yourself. So having the capacity to learn things by yourself, it's really important. Three, communication is super important, and it's not something you necessarily learn at school. It's something hands-on that you learn from the workplace or from working on project with other people. So communication is really important also. um, So yeah, I mean, there is a big shift in the workforce, in education, and in learning in general. So I hope this was clear for you. Mm.
Definitely, you made it clear, and I think the biggest point for everyone to take from this today is that learning doesn't stop in the classroom.
Yeah, yeah,
And in your case, it didn't even start in the classroom. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
so it's a big, big burden if you want if to take upon yourself to educate yourself from, from start to finish, especially in the tech world, which is constantly changing, constantly evolving. So definitely cannot
yeah,
stop with the knowledge that you learn in school. You need
yeah,
to keep learning, and it's not a
yeah,
bad idea to try to look for that information online if you can.
yeah.
uh,
Exact,
yeah.
exact.
So, and what you learned maybe 10 years ago
Yeah,
is different from what you're going to learn in the future. So it's always a very important
yeah,
thing to keep, keep thinking about that and keep going in the future. I think we have about
yeah.
maybe just 5 minutes left. So unless new questions come up in the Q&A, I mean, and maybe Yahya, you could give us, so your final notes, your final points, and if you would like to add something else, we're all ears. So please go ahead. If new questions come up, I'll make sure to hand them over before we leave.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I mean, final points. If you have an idea or thought for product, don't wait, don't delay the process. Start right now after this call. Get a Google Doc, start writing your vision, the ambition, and your first 3 months to execute the first MVP. Your focus, you should be, as an entrepreneur, someone with an idea, should be like, you should be really product driven. You should really be execution driven. Don't think about the financial model, don't think about the BGP, don't think about the presentation. Only think about the product and how can you build something that can be useful for 5 people. And your focus should be focusing on building something really useful for only 5 to 10 people, and that can be your friends, your network, your family. So if you build something for 5 people and the 5 people love it, you can start thinking it. You can start thinking of the next 20 users, the next 50 users, and if you grow that, all of the other stuff will come during the way. The second thing, it's really important that you explore other areas outside the school or university. It means it's really important to explore other technologies that you're not studying, or explore other frameworks that you're not studying, or it's super important. The third thing is try to get involved with a startup. If you have an idea, if you have a how they operate and how everything works, it's a lot of learning. Your focus, your probably your first priority as a student or as a graduate is, how can I make this learning curve really fast, and how can I learn the most. Don't focus on salaries, don't have a high expectation, don't focus. That's important, that you need to give importance, but your first priority should be always on, how can I grow more as a person, how can I learn more, and how can I be in an environment where everyone are pushing me and motivating me and challenging me to do always better. And that should be your priority as a, I think, as a student and as a graduate. So definitely trying to get involved with startups instead of going for a bank or for a VC or for a consultancy agency, or it's better to be involved in startups if you have the rush of working in a risk environment and have the ability to learn really fast. If you want something stable and something that is really static, go and work for something really static. But if you want to thrive and to learn and to grow in the company, working in startup is definitely a great idea. So yeah, um, the fourth thing is, we have a lot of tracks that GoMyCode. Feel free to go on the website and like apply. So yeah,
So yeah, give it a shot, everyone. Try and see what you can learn from GoMyCode. They're available in Bahrain currently, so that's another plus. It's easier for you there, and I'm sure you'll learn a lot from Yahya, from his drive and from his attitude towards problem solving, as he said. So there's a lot to learn there. Thank you so much, Yahya.
of
Thank
course.
you
Yeah,
our attendees. Thank you for taking the time to being with us. I'm sure the audience have benefited a lot from your points. It's
Yeah.
good to have you.
Thanks so
Thank
much. Yeah. Thank you so
you.
much for having me. Yeah.
Inshallah, we'll have
رمضانكم
you.
كريم, everyone. Huh?
Yeah, same to you. Same to you,
Thanks.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Mubarak.
And
Yeah.
many thanks. And bye bye, everyone. See
Bye
you
bye.
next.
Cheers. Take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye.